Okay, here we are back again on the Rich Fantastic Sports Channel. Today we are going over our final division in the NFL for the season preview of the 2015 season. And today we have the AFC West we're going to be going over. And we're going to start, of course, with the Denver Broncos. You have Gary Kubiak coming in to be the new coach. Familiar with that system, was under Mike Shanahan for many years. Of course, that zone running game that was made popular by Gary Kubiak. A lot of unknowns getting 1,000 yards rushing, such as the Olindis Garys, the Mike Andersons of the world. So he'll come in and take his shot at head coach. He's replacing John Fox, who was very successful there. So see how he can do as he takes over. Of course, Peyton Manning, his greatness is unquestioned. Is this his last ride, though? He had a neck injury a few years ago. It seems like last year in the game against the Colts, he wasn't as sharp as he could have been. So you have to wonder, especially when getting up to that age, how much does Peyton Manning have left? But I expect another solid season from him. With Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, you have a strong receiving core, arguably the best duo in the league. I can't think of any off the top of my head that would be better. They're going to look to be Peyton Manning's favorite targets as usual. And they also have a solid line. It's not great, not spectacular, but they do have Luis Vasquez at right guard, along with Chris Clark at tackle. They're going to, provide Peyton Manning with cover, and Peyton Manning knows how to adjust the defense or adjust his line and protections up front to make sure he's protecting and knows they can really ball fast. You really don't see Peyton Manning take very many sacks, and I expect to see the same thing again this year. The running backs with with C.J. Anderson and Monte Ball could have formed a nice 1-2 punch there. Monte Ball, physical guy with speed, and C.J. Anderson, more or less of a speed guy, finesse guy, but he can also bruise. So they're going to be a nice complement to each other. I don't know if one of them will emerge and be the number one this season. If anyone does, I would expect it to be Monte Ball. I like Monte Ball. Moving on to the defensive side of the ball, this team has a very, very good linebacking core. You have Danny Trevathan and Brandon Marshall as the middle linebackers in the 3-4 scheme. And you also have Von Miller, Shane Ray, their first round pick this year, and DeMarcus Ware, who are pass rushers in the outside linebacker in the 3-4 scheme. Trevathan and Marshall, they're good in pass coverage. They cover well. They also they cover a lot of the field, I should say. Make tackles in the running game, so that's good. And you always need that from your middle linebackers. And if you have two guys doing it in 3-4, you can really be dangerous. Von Miller, we know he's very good. You have to account for him. You have to likely double him most of the game. The better tackles might, and I emphasize might, be able to handle Von Miller one-on-one, but you're usually looking to double team him at some point or the other. Shane Ray, we're going to see what he brings to the table in his first year. And DeMarcus Ware, a guy who, as a Cowboy fan, I was never really impressed with DeMarcus Ware. Sure, he put up big numbers, but, when it came time to get a big sack, DeMarcus Ware was nowhere to be found. A lot of times they were getting beat downfield because of it. I expect Shane Ray to start and DeMarcus Ware to come in specialized situations. He's going to get sacks. He's not a bum as I'm trying to project, but I just never thought he ever got the big sacks as needed. But will certainly help, and with Von Miller on the other side and possibly Shane Ray, coming in to go on this opposite side of the ball as DeMarcus Ware, they'll really help him out. And if he's only taking a limited amount of snaps in passing situations, we expect him to put up big sack numbers this year. Aqib Talib is their best cornerback, a big physical guy. He's in the second tier. We've gone over the second tier. Can cover well. A guy who had a good year a few years ago for New England, so kind of hovering, teetering on that intermediary between the top tier and the next tier down. That's where I put Aqib Talib. And on the defensive line, you have Derek Wolfe and Malik Jackson, their tackles. They're going to need to do a good job of clogging up front, along with Sylvester Williams, who's replacing Terrence Knight in the 3-4 scheme. It's their job to draw blockers and keep them off guard, Von Miller's and the DeMarcus Ware and Shane Ray's in the pass rush, and keep them off blockers. Keep the blockers off Danny Trevathan and Brandon Marshall in the running game. So they're going to have to do that this year. And I have the Denver Broncos going 11-5 this season, winning the division. The next team, and if you were paying attention, this next team is going to be a playoff team. They're going to be a wild card team. And I'm sure I'm going to shock many of you by saying this, but I like the Oakland Raiders this year making the playoffs. I really think that this is going to be the surprise team of this season. You have a new coach with Jack Del Rio. He's going to look to drop the dysfunction that's been going on there. He was successful in Jacksonville. Things toward the end didn't go well, but that was just a good team that stopped or lost a lot of its players. Sometimes, the bottom falls out for good teams. I like Jack Del Rio, disciplined guy, going to bring discipline to that much needed organization. Derek Carr will have to show improvement this year. I like him. I think he has all the tools, and I think he will show improvement. And that's because of the two new toys they got. I mean, Michael Crabtree coming over from the San Francisco 49ers, very good receiver, veteran guy, knows how to get open, knows how to beat guys. He's gone up against some of the best corners in the league, in Richard Sherman and Patrick Peterson in the last few seasons as a member of the 49ers. And Amari Cooper, who I would put as the as the offensive rookie of the year this season, a wide receiver coming out of Alabama. I really like Amari Cooper. Deep threat, can catch screens and run downfield, fast guy. I think Derek Carr is going to love him, and I really think that these two are going to play very well for years to come. Their offensive line is average. You have Khalif Barnes, who's a veteran on there, can anchor that a little. Rodney Hudson coming over from Kansas City to play center is really going to solidify that line and help Derek Carr out. He doesn't want to go down the same path as his brother, obviously, taking a lot of hits early in his career. And I think they're going to do a good job of keeping him upright this season. They cut Trent Richardson early in training camp at the running back position. I'm a little surprised by that. Well, I'm not surprised. I'm a little surprised that Trent Richardson hasn't been the pro everyone expected. I'm not surprised that he got cut because he hasn't lived up to the billing since coming out of Alabama. Latavius Murray, and I will be honest with you, I did not know who Latavius Murray was until I read the depth chart right before I was doing this video. He's a big guy, 6'3", 230. He averaged 5.2 yards per carry last season, which is very impressive, but it was on only 82 carries, which is just about 5. 5 carries per game would be 80 carries in the season, so he's just at that mark. But the 5.2 yards per carry and a guy that big is going to be tough to bring down, so we'll see if he can't get an increased workload and really help out the offense this year. When you move to the defensive side of the ball, you have Khalil Mack and the second-round pick Mario Edwards Jr. They're going to look to get pressure on the quarterbacks. You need that in this league. So they have a nice core there of players who can apply pressure on the quarterbacks, especially with a guy like Peyton Manning in your division. You need to get pressure on him. It's really the only way you're going to beat Peyton Manning unless he's beating himself. So they have a nice core there. You have Curtis Lofton coming over, a 100-tackle-a-year guy. Book it down. He started his career in Atlanta. He's coming over from New Orleans. He's a nice addition there. Oh, and also you do have Justin Tuck, a guy who can come in specialized situations a la DeMarcus Ware, who we just discussed. He's going to provide veteran leadership to that young core. Justin Tuck has always been a good player, good pro, champion, winner, and I like him on this team. I think he's really going to help them out on the defensive line. In the secondary, DJ Hayden, can this be his breakout year? Hasn't really lived up to it since coming into the league. So they're going to need him to step up. A guy who's 5'11", size is good enough to play in this league. He's got some tough receivers, as we talked with Denver, to hold up against. You have Nate Allen, who's coming over to play safety. He's a veteran player, been in this league a while, definitely an upgrade there. You're never disappointed to have Nate Allen on your team. And Charles Woodson, who's a veteran. A lot of people might ask what Charles Woodson has left. Well, I'll tell you what he has left. He had 100 tackles, a sack, a fumble, recovering 4 interceptions last year. So expect Charles Woodson to be the same outstanding player as he was throughout his career. He's 38, but this guy is one of those guys who's just going to make plays and defy time. Eventually, we'll catch up with him. Does catch up with everyone, but trust me, Darren Woodson is not the type of player. Or excuse me, not Darren Woodson, Charles Woodson. My mistake. I do apologize for that. Charles Woodson is not the type of player who's going to step on the field if he knows he doesn't have the game anymore. He's a very proud guy, and he's stepping on the field expecting certain levels of himself. So expect another very good season for Charles Woodson this year. And we have the Oakland Raiders going 9-7 this year. How long is this team going to be awful? It's been, 12 years since they've been in the playoffs? So I'm liking this team. I like the additions they made, and I'm expecting a playoffs this season for the Oakland Raiders at 9-7. So you can hear it here first and tell everyone this is where you heard it first. The next team is the third place team, the Kansas City Chiefs. I have them going 7-9. They're obviously well coached with Andy Reid. This guy does nothing but win basically every season he coaches. He's winning, and his teams usually always have a winning record. So he's gonna have them well coached, of course. Alex Smith is a guy who I think is much better than he's given credit for. He's often labeled with that quote-unquote game manager. We discussed my thoughts on the game manager. I don't think he is a game manager in the sense of what you guys are thinking and the negative connotation it has as far as when people are described as a game manager. I think Alex Smith is a guy who never had a coordinator for successive seasons early on in his San Francisco career, and it hurt him. Once they brought Jim Harbaugh in, and their head coach um, was the one who had the offensive philosophy, and the offensive philosophy was set, you saw Alex Smith take off, and I still think he's unfairly judged for what happened to him early in his career in San Francisco. And also remember, he was a top overall pick. Those were bad teams, and they even got worse. They lost a lot of the players from those veteran teams of the early '90s that were successful. So Alex Smith is a good player, and I expect him to be fine. I really don't think the criticism of Alex Smith has ever been fair. You have Jamal Charles, who's obviously very fast, was a track star, and he can run the daylights out of anyone. He's also a good pass receiver out of the backfield. So he's going to have another good season. I don't see any reason why he would struggle to. You have Jeremy Maclin, a fast guy coming over from Philadelphia, played for Andy Reid before he knows the offense, and Alex Smith is going to look to go vertical with him. On the offensive line, Eric Fisher, who was the #1 pick from a few years ago, has not really lived up to the billing. We'll see if he can't get himself together and really step up. Ben Grubbs, in addition, we discussed they lost Rodney Houston to Oakland before. He was the center for this team. On defense, Justin Houston had 22 sacks last season, so he's going to command a lot of attention this year. Let's see if that'll free up Tamba Ali on the other side of the ball, rushing as the defensive and outside linebacker, so to speak, in the 3-4 system. Tamba Ali has gone down from 11 sacks to 6 sacks last year, so he's going to look to return to form. They're going to need him. Their secondary, Marcus Peters, the first-round pick, is really going to have to show up that secondary. We'll see what he has. He's a big guy, 6 feet. I believe it was 217 was his weight, so he's muscular, and they're going to need him to play well because the rest of the secondary is not very good. Then we move on to the last place team, the San Diego Chargers. I also have them at 7-9, so it could go either way with them and the Chiefs. Obviously, I do believe this is the best division in football, as you can see by the records I'm giving them. So any one of these teams, it wouldn't surprise me if they're. Would surprise me if any one of them necessarily won the division. I don't see them catching Denver, but it wouldn't surprise me if any one of these teams made the playoffs, and they all should be in the wild card hunt until late in the year. You have Phillip Rivers, who's a very consistent, gamey quarterback. You know what he can do, and his favorite target is Antonio Gates, who's still reliable. He had injuries in the past, but he had a good season last year, 12 touchdowns, over 800 yards receiving. Brandon Oliver will look to replace Ryan Matthews. Ryan Matthews was never spectacular, but he got the job done. So they're going to need Brandon Oliver to fill that gap. They have big receivers in Malcolm Floyd and Keenan Allen, 6'5" and 6'2", respectively. Phillip Rivers loves throwing those guys the ball, especially, Antonio Gates. We've always seen it. He loves throwing it up, letting those guys make the catches. So they're tough covers, and that'll allow this offense to be dangerous. Their offensive line, they have solid tackles, King Dunlap at the left tackle and DJ Fluger at the right tackle. So that'll give Phillip Rivers the time to get the ball downfield and make some plays. When we move on to the defensive side of the ball with the San Diego Chargers, the conversation starts with Eric Weddle at safety. He's a spectacular safety. I would claim Eric Weddle the best safety in the league. That's my opinion, of course, but this is a guy who since 2010 has either been on the first or second team All-Pro, and I expect him to be an All-Pro again this season. Even if Eric Weddle doesn't play well, which I don't expect, I expect him to have a good year. He'll get on one of the All-Pro teams off of reputation. That's how good this guy is. At their linebacker, you also have Brandon Flowers at cornerback. This is a guy in that second tier, towards the bottom of that second tier when it comes to corner. They'll need him to play well, especially with the departure of Sharice Wright to San Francisco. Monte Te'o needs to be better. Obviously there was all that coming out of college, the catfish situation, whatever that was. I thought going to San Diego where he could fly under the radar was good for him, but now he's really got to step up his play. I don't know why Monte Te'o has not lived up to the billing. I was expecting a very good career out of Monte Te'o, but he hasn't lived up to it yet, so we'll see if he can have a breakout year this year. And Melvin Ingram, again, they run a 3-4. They have Melvin Ingram rushing the passer as the outside linebacker. They're going to need him to have a good year as well. And their defensive line, they're all big, all the starters, which is perfect in the 3-4 defensive scheme where you're looking to gobble up all the offensive tackles, or offensive linemen tackles included. to allow your linebackers to make plays both rushing the passer and the running game. Kendall Reyes, Sean Lissamore, and Corey Ligu, all at 300 pounds. This is more of a situation where they're just having, instead of Kendall Reyes and Corey Ligu, or however you would pronounce that, as defensive ends technically in the 3-4 scheme, they're really just three defensive tackles. That's what they're playing. So they're going to look to eat up the offensive linemen to allow the linebackers to make plays. So they're going to do that this year. And we have San Diego again at 7-9. So we'll give you the recap. Denver Broncos 11-5. Gary Kubiak, the new coach. Peyton Manning could be his last ride. The receiving core are probably the best in football in my estimation. They are Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. Good offensive line. And Monty Ball and C.J. Anderson, a 1-2 punch there. The defense, the linebackers are the showcase of this defense. Excellent. Brandon Marshall and Danny Trevathan on the inside. And you have Shane Ray, the rookie. Von Miller, the established star. And DeMarcus Wood, a long-time consistent pro. Probably a Hall of Famer rushing the passer. Keith Lee is their best in the secondary. And on the defensive line, you have Sylvester Williams, who have to replace Terrence Knight. Denver Broncos 11-5 this year, winning the division. And then, we have, as we said before, a bit of a surprise. Oakland Raiders getting the wild card. I have them going 9-7. So you heard it here first. Remember that. Jack Del Rio going to cut out the nonsense there that's been going on in Oakland. I expect Derek Carr to make big improvements in his second year, and that's because of Michael Crabtree and Amari Cooper, two very good receivers. Derek Carr will have to work with this year. The offensive line, Rodney Hudson coming over from San Diego at center, going to solidify that offensive line. And then they cut Trent Richardson, obviously, in training camp. Latavius Murray, a guy who averaged 5 yards per carry, big bruising back. 6'3", 230. He's a large man. He's probably full of muscle. And as we said, averaged over 5.2 yards per carry, but it was only 82 rushes that year. So we'll see what he does with an increased workload. Defensive side of the ball, you have Khalil Mack and Mario Edwards Jr. at the defensive end positions. You have Justin Tuck backing them up, bring veteran savvy to this team. And you have Curtis Lofton, who's played with Atlanta and previously with New Orleans. He's going to shore up the linebacker position and middle linebacker. In the secondary, DJ Hayden needs to step up. They're going to need him, especially if this team is going to be going to the playoffs. Nate Allen, a good addition at safety, along with Charles Woodson as well, who's going to have another big year. I don't see any reason. Again, we discussed it. He expects certain levels of himself. When he goes on the field, he's expecting reach those levels. And that again, Oakland was 9-7 at the wild card. Kansas City 7-9. The Kansas City Chiefs, they're well coached with Andy Reid. Alex Smith, I've always thought is a better quarterback than he's gotten credit for, and it showed now that he's had consistent offensive philosophy. That was a mouthful to allow him to showcase his talent. Jamal Charles, very fast guy, can catch out of the backfield as well. Jeremy Macklin from Philadelphia. Alex Smith's going to look a little vertical with him. On the offensive line, Ben Grubbs is a nice addition. Eric Fisher has to live up to the billing since being the number one overall pick. Frankly, I was surprised he was the number one pick. I don't think this guy is ever even going to be close to a Tyron Smith or a Joe Staley at tackle. Joe Staley, another fellow Central Michigan guy, as was Eric Fisher. But if this team has any aspirations of competing, they're going to need Eric Fisher to do so. Defense, Justin Houston, a spectacular sack man, over 20 sacks last season. We'll see if he can draw attention this year and allows Tamba Ali to open up on the other side and come back after having 11 and 6 sacks over the past 2 seasons. So trending downward in that regard. And in the secondary, they need their first round pick, Marcus Peters, a big physical guy to cover well. He's going to be tested. Obviously, he's got the good receivers in Denver, and he's got another good receiving core in Oakland as well with Michael Crabtree and Amari Cooper. And even San Diego, we just discussed big wide receivers. So he's going to learn a lot in good quarterbacks in this league as well. Peyton Manning, Phillip Rivers, and Derek Carr. Alex Smith plays for the Chiefs. They're going to look to test this guy. So he's going to, baptism by fire for Marcus Peters this season. And in the last place team, and again we discussed, they're also 7-9. The San Diego Chargers, interchangeable with the Kansas City Chiefs, and any one of these teams could make the playoffs, and they'll all be in the running late in the year. Best division in football, as we said. Philip Rivers always been consistent, along with his favorite go-to guy, tight end Antonio Gates. Brandon Oliver replacing Ryan Matthews, big question mark there. The receivers are big. Malcolm Floyd and Keenan Allen, 6'5", 6'2", respectively. Philip Rivers loves throwing jump balls for these guys. That's just part of what Philip Rivers does. So they'll do so again this year. The offensive line, good tackles. DJ Fluker at right and King Dunlap at left, protecting Philip Rivers' blind side. Defensive side of the ball, it starts with Eric Weddle, who didn't mention this before. I am going to give Eric Weddle the Defensive Player of the Year award if this team makes the playoffs. We'll go over all that tomorrow, though. But expect for him to be in the running. Brandon Flowers has to be solid at the cornerback position. Linebackers, Monte Te'o has to come up big. He has to start living up to what he was coming out of college. You have to wonder if he's ever going to do so. Melvin Ingram needs to get pressure on the quarterback. And we talked about their defensive line. They're perfect for a 3-4 scheme. All three guys are over 300 pounds. Kendall Reyes, Sean Lissamore, and Corey LeGout. And it's more of a, now really ends here as Kendall Reyes and LeGout are listed as the defensive ends, but it's more like they're just playing three tackles. So they're going to line up to get to eat up offensive linemen and fill the linebackers up. All right, so that is it for all the divisions. We have them set. Tomorrow is Thursday, September 10th, the first day of the season. So the long nightmare is over. I know people can't live without the NFL. We're getting it back tomorrow. So tomorrow, be sure to stay tuned. I'm going to give you my picks, my playoff picks of all the teams we have in the playoffs, as well as all the postseason awards, such as Defensive Player of the Year, MVP, Rookie of the Years, and Coach of the Years. We're going to have all that for you tomorrow, and I'll also give you my prediction for tomorrow night's season opener, as the Pittsburgh Steelers will be going in to battle the New England Patriots in Foxborough. So be sure to stay tuned for that. Season's here. We're all ready to go, and we'll give you the breakdown of the awards and tomorrow's game tomorrow and how the playoffs shape up. So thanks for watching. Be sure to stay tuned tomorrow.